Kurt, have you seen Stranger Things? Kurt, you gotta watch Stranger Things. You'll love it. Kurt, please tell me you've seen Stranger Things. These are things I've been hearing non-stop for the last 9 years. From my family, my real-life friends, my online friends, everyone. Well, guess what, guys? I am finally doing it. After all this time, they were able to convince me. To prepare for the final episodes coming at the end of the year, I am watching through the show for the very first time. And guess what? I'm not going to lie to you guys. Y'all were right. I am absolutely loving it so far. I love the 80s aesthetic and music. I love the atmosphere. I love the intrigue and mystery element. I love the genre blending. I love the emotional weight. I love the writing and directing from the Duffer Brothers. And most importantly, I love the characters. Let's dive deep into and expand on all of these things. Why exactly is Stranger Things working so well for me so far? Why am I so excited to keep going? Let's talk about it. Spoilers for season 1, obviously. The first thing that immediately drew me in was the vibe, the look and feel of everything. Obviously, I wasn't alive in the 80s, but like many others like me, I have a weird sense of nostalgia for the music, movies, clothing, and culture of the time, and so badly wish I could have lived through it. Stranger Things does an excellent job of placing you into a specific time and place. If you told me that someone went back in time with current technology and just filmed people hanging out in the 80s, I would believe you. Everyone looks and dresses like they're in the 80s. They talk like they're in the 80s. The show is filled to the brim with references to things that were popular in the pop culture at the time. One of the very first scenes shows a group of middle school kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, which was super popular at the time. One of those kids, Mike, has a John Carpenter's The Thing poster in his basement. Jonathan Byers has an Evil Dead poster in his room. The kids are constantly referencing X-Men comics in relation to what's going on in their life. Specifically with the character of Eleven, this is exactly what kids of the time would be interested in and talking about. I certainly would have been. The music is, of course, a huge part of it as well. I absolutely love 80s music. The song I listened to the most on Apple Music this year was Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner. Classic 80s songs are perfectly sprinkled in throughout the season at the perfect times, but they don't overdo it. Africa by Toto, another favorite of mine, plays while Nancy and Steve are in the bedroom. I'll Stop the World and Melt with You, Sunglasses at Night. I mean, come on. This is an 80s music fan's dream, but it never feels overwhelming. They don't beat you over the head with it. The songs never overtake the scene to the point where it just seems like they're saying, hey, remember the 80s? Which is a trap a lot of movies and shows will fall into. They carefully place the songs and moments that make sense within the scene and feel authentic to the time. It's not just the in-universe references, though. Stranger Things wears its influences on its sleeve, and the Duffer Brothers don't shy away from that. And that's not an insult. It pays homage to many things, usually of the coming-of-age and/or horror realm, but it also carves its own path and never feels like a retread at all. A group of kids going off on their own and going on dangerous adventures feels very Stand By Me or The Goonies. Mike hiding and disguising Eleven is like E.T. Eleven being a young girl who has difficulties controlling her powers is like Carrie. Many elements of the Upside Down, such as the look and the thing going into Will's mouth, are confirmed to have been inspired by Alien. There are many more, and I could go on and on. Point some out in the comments if you like. But point being, this is how you unabashedly wear your influences on your sleeve and pay homages while still feeling very much like your own unique thing. Along with the 80s-ness of it all, I'm also a huge fan of genre filmmaking. I love sci-fi, fantasy, horror, thriller, mystery, anything that stokes feelings of intrigue and wonder. From the first episode, I was captivated by the mystery of what is going on, where Will and Barbara went, and the eerie yet magical atmosphere. I think the score by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein is a huge part of that. Their main theme for the show is immediately recognizable, even by people who have never watched it, but every single one of their pieces are fantastic and perfectly suit the scenes they are in. Music is incredibly important to movies and TV, especially in the horror and sci-fi genres that rely so heavily on atmosphere, tension, and emotions. You will feel an intense fear of the unknown. You will feel a childlike sense of wonder. You will feel sad. You will feel excited. The full spectrum of emotions are pulled out throughout this season, and the music heightens all of that. They really make you feel like anything is possible, good or bad. What is one of the most important things a TV show needs to do to be successful? It needs to hook you from the first episode, and it needs to keep your undivided attention throughout. Stranger Things builds intrigue from the start and gets more and more interesting and slowly reveals layers as it goes along, posing many questions that I can't wait to get answers to. Will Byers goes missing in the first episode. Where did he go? Is he alive? Then Eleven said she saw him and he starts communicating with his mom. Where is he? Is it somewhere real or the afterlife? Nancy's friend Barbara goes missing at the end of episode 2. Did she go to the same place? Is she dead? They set up the mystery of what's going on with the lab and what Matthew Modine's Dr. Brenner is up to. We see the picture of the monster, the Demogorgon that Jonathan took, a fantastic reveal, sort of like the alien reveal scene in Signs. We see the Upside Down and Demogorgon in full form in episode 6 when Nancy goes to the Upside Down. We find out Brenner is essentially responsible for the opening of the portal. We find out Eleven can access the Upside Down through a sensory deprivation tank, and the fates of Will and Barb are revealed. Then the Demogorgon comes to Earth and our heroes have to fight it in the finale. Every episode sees new questions posed and new information revealed. Everything matters and it never gets stagnant. A testament to how you grab a viewer and never let them go. I am first and foremost a character guy though, so let's talk about the characters. Stranger Things Season 1 does a great job introducing us to a set of characters that are complex and layered that we like and care about. The kids are awesome and very much feel like authentic children of the 80s. Child performances many times don't work for me, and I will not shy away from that, and I'll be honest when I don't like them. But they're all great here. Finn Wolfhard is very talented. I was already familiar with him from It and Ghostbusters, and he's fantastic as the emotional leader of the kids. He's a very driven and compassionate person who becomes attached to the mysterious, powerful newcomer Eleven. Sure, he has a crush on her, but that's not why he took her in and helped her out. He did that because he's a good kid and he genuinely cares about her as a person. He does sometimes let his emotions cloud his judgment, which we all do, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. He cares deeply about his friends, and despite clashing with them at times, he was willing to jump off a cliff to save one of them. Mike is in some ways the lead of the season, and Finn carries that pressure very well. Eleven is quite a fascinating character. She's extremely powerful and has been treated as a weapon or a lab rat her entire life. She has never really had any freedom or time to develop her own personality. Still, there are signs of a passionate, loyal, and selfless person in there. She is deeply traumatized by her upbringing and lack of a traditional childhood, and that likely shaped her in a way that she will never be able to shake. When she finally makes it to the outside world, she is very much a fish out of water, which makes for some fun and interesting interactions.
I was tripped by this mouth breather, Troy, okay? Mouth breather?
She's very caring and emotional, but never learned how to express those emotions and feelings, something she gets better at as the season goes along. At the beginning, she is literally incapable of communicating. By the end of the season, she still has a long way to go, but is able to understand the gist of what people are saying to her and respond in kind. Of course, Mike was the character she was closest to by far, and much of what she learns about human interaction is from him, but her finally becoming friends with Lucas after a contentious and bumpy road and accidentally injuring him was really sweet as well. A young Millie Bobby Brown is so good at conveying all of those complex emotions that Eleven feels, such as fear, sadness, joy, guilt, and determination. Lucas and Dustin round out the middle school kid group for the season, as Will was barely around even though much of the plot revolved around him. Lucas is the grounded, stubborn skeptic of the group, and I love him for it. He's a sharp kid and is never afraid to speak his mind. If everyone in the group thought the same way, it would get stale. Lucas constantly questions the others, especially when it comes to trusting Eleven, and it makes for some really good conflict that feels organic. His reservations are at least somewhat vindicated when she hurts him. Fortunately, it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been, but it was nearly a disaster. At the end, they shake hands and become friends, showing growth for both characters, and Lucas makes up with Mike in the same scene. You love to see it. I was completely unfamiliar with Caleb McLaughlin before this, but he's awesome and has a great screen presence. Dustin is honestly my favorite of the kids, though. I absolutely love him. He is just so funny and relatable. He's the nerdy mediator of the group, constantly referencing pop culture such as movies, TV, and comic books, mainly X-Men, relating those to the crazy situations they are constantly finding themselves in. He's endlessly curious and very intelligent for his age, figuring out why the compasses were malfunctioning and how to use that to their advantage. He is constantly talking to Mr. Clark about scientific concepts such as a parallel universe, even convincing him to tell him about sensory deprivation tanks. Dustin wants everyone to get along and tends to mediate disagreements between Mike and Lucas, understanding both sides and helping them come to an understanding. I mean, this kid is so me. I also think it's so funny how he's constantly ridiculing his friends for not keeping up or understanding what he is saying. Patience, man. Not every kid is as nerdy as you.
Are you both seriously this dense?
Gaten Matarazzo is just such a charming and likable dude, and that bleeds into the character so much, one of my favorites. While I said that it could be Mike, one could certainly make an argument that Joyce is the main character of this season. I mean, she is billed first and listed first in the intro, but that could just be because Winona Ryder was the biggest star of the time. I've been a huge fan of Winona's for a while, and this is definitely some of her best work. Joyce goes through the ringer this season, spending pretty much all of her screen time trying to find her lost son, Will. Everyone else is so sure that he's dead, but she refuses to believe it. This is a common coping mechanism for a grieving mother, and it certainly would seem to everyone around her that she's losing it. But she was right all along. Will is alive, and her persistence is one of the biggest reasons they were able to find him in the end. Joyce is a character that we feel immense empathy for and find it easy to latch onto from the beginning. She is behaving how any mother would in this situation, and Winona is such a powerhouse, showing the entire spectrum of emotions throughout the season. Joyce is extremely protective and determined, which worked to her advantage here. And can I just say something, because we are all thinking it. I know she is 25 years older than me, but...
Yeah, that brother's starving.
Chief Jim Hopper is a personal favorite of mine, and it's quite the journey this season. He's clearly a broken, beaten down, cynical man, and by the time the season is over, we completely understand why. I mean, the man lost his daughter to cancer, for God's sake. That is about the worst thing someone could go through. Can you blame him for disassociating, losing his faith in humanity, and drinking heavily? I think we all would. Despite all of this, he is a good man with a solid moral compass who discovers what is going on in the lab and becomes an integral part of finding Will in the end, something he would stop at nothing to achieve. Hopper, along with Eleven, has one of the better arcs in this season, and he immediately feels a sense of duty to protect her. Hopper's relationship with Joyce is one of my favorites of the season. He cares deeply about her and has a soft spot for her. He, like everyone else, is skeptical about the possibility of Will being alive, which would be reasonable at first, but the moment he finds out the truth, his singular focus is finding Will and helping Joyce. He channels his sadness and regret into helping other people. David Harbour is an actor that has popped up in a lot of stuff and is usually a side character, but he always delivers. He is absolutely a standout here, and I can't wait to see what they do with him in the upcoming seasons. Let's talk about another favorite of mine, Nancy Wheeler. I see Nancy get a lot of hate online, and I don't really understand why. Maybe as the show goes along I will, but I thought she was great in this season. And no, it's not just because she's cute. She is a very kind, caring, and compassionate person, especially after her friend Barbara disappears. She's not perfect, of course, but she cares deeply about her friends and family and puts herself in harm's way to help them. She is determined to find Barb and helps find Will. She is one of the only people to talk to and feel empathy for Jonathan Byers after his brother goes missing, and even calls out her boyfriend Steve and their friends for treating him poorly. In the beginning, she is more of a typical popular girl dating the popular guy in Steve, but she ditches him when she finds his behavior objectionable, which in turn causes him to reflect. Her bond with Jonathan is really sweet and genuine. Two people you would never think would get along, but are way more alike than they appear on the surface, and they connect in a pretty deep way. By the end of the season, Nancy is a courageous, resourceful badass who has no hesitation about taking the Demogorgon on, and the show absolutely earned that. Nancy is awesome, at least in this season, and I will stand by that. As of recording this, I am watching season 2, and she's only getting better. I had no idea who Natalia Dyer was before this, but she is fantastic here, a massive standout. The last two characters I want to spend any significant amount of time on are Steve and Jonathan, two guys vying for Nancy's heart. I'll start with Steve, who can definitely be a tool at times, but he is also clearly conflicted and not inherently malicious. It feels more than anything else like he was trying to be the cool kid to fit in with and impress his and Nancy's other friends. Why were they ever friends with those morons in the first place, by the way? They're just so unlikable in every single way, but honestly kind of funny because of it. Steve does some crappy things in season 1 for sure, like breaking Jonathan's camera, and I am not excusing Jonathan's peeping at all. I'll get to that in a second. I'm just saying that was not Steve's right to do that. He also slut-shamed Nancy and treated Jonathan horribly in general. Even before the picture incident, he was making fun of him. But he realizes the error of his ways, understands what's important, and redeems himself at the end, making things right with both Nancy and Jonathan and helping fight the Demogorgon. That's all you can really ask at that point. Steve had one of the better arcs this season. The writers earned it, and Joe Keery did a great job selling it. Jonathan is a fascinating character. He is clearly an outsider, a loner, and has a hard time fitting in anywhere, which is something some of us can definitely relate to. He's smart and artistic, which we see with his interest in photography. He's compassionate and responsible as he takes care of his mom and at times Nancy, and feels a duty to find his brother. He doesn't fully understand social norms or what is or isn't considered appropriate behavior yet, though, and we see that when he invades Nancy's privacy by taking risque pictures of her without her permission. And let's be honest, his excuse for doing that was total BS. But as the season goes along, Jonathan opens up more and becomes more assertive and embraces a caretaker role. He, like Hopper, was skeptical about Will being alive at first and tried to convince his mom to move on, but immediately switched to trying to find him when he found out he was alive. He still has more to learn, but the empathy is there, the passion is there, and he's one of the more interesting characters in the show. Charlie Heaton is another actor I was essentially unfamiliar with, but he is a perfect fit for this complex, introverted role. Of course, there are a bunch of minor characters that make an impact as well, and I want to shout out a few of them. Matthew Modine is perfect as the nefarious Dr. Martin Brenner, essentially the main villain of the season who is behind the research lab, the experiments on 11, and the portal opening. Rob Morgan, aka Turk from Daredevil, is awesome as Police Officer Powell. I really like John Reynolds as his partner, Officer Callahan, as well. Shannon Purser was really good in a brief time as Nancy's responsible friend, Barbara. Randy Havens is really enjoyable as Dustin's science buddy, Mr. Clark. I've barely talked about Noah Schnapp as Will Byers, but that's because he's barely in the season. The main plot revolves around finding him and the journey of everyone else, but he has almost no screen time. There will be much more to explore as the season goes along. The ending makes that clear. The casting all around for this show was just so perfect. I can't think of a single person who I think did not fit their role. And they were all balanced out so well, everyone got their time to shine. One thing I really want to get out of any movie or TV show, something that will make it stand out and take up space in my mind, is to make me feel something. Stranger Things Season 1 made me feel everything. I felt scared and worried when Will disappeared. I felt immense empathy for Joyce and her journey, grappling with Will's disappearance and trying to figure out how to save him. I felt empathy for Jonathan, who was handling the situation very differently and trying to bring his mom back to his and most people's perceived reality. I felt empathy for Nancy when her friend Barbara disappeared and for the guilt that she felt about it. I felt empathy for Eleven's upbringing, and it was very bittersweet when she sacrificed herself to destroy the Demogorgon. I felt empathy for Mike, for seemingly losing her. I felt sadness for the death of Hopper's daughter, and empathy for him experiencing it. I felt relieved when Will was saved, but simultaneously sadness for the death of Barbara. I felt excited when Nancy wanted to take on the Demogorgon. I felt joy watching the kids play Dungeons and Dragons together at the end, then fear for what's to come for Will. I was worried, I was scared, I was happy, I was uncertain, I was excited, I laughed, I cried, I gasped, I yelled, I fist pumped. Any emotion you can think of, I felt it with this season of Stranger Things. So many scenes and moments have stuck in my mind for so many different reasons, and that is how you know the creators, actors, and everyone who worked on the show did their job. The last thing I want to talk about is the ending. A good season finale should have a satisfying conclusion to the main conflict for the season, while also teasing what's to come. And Chapter 8, The Upside Down, walks that tightrope perfectly. This season was ultimately about finding Will, and they do, overcoming all kinds of obstacles and defeating the Demogorgon in the process. So Will is back, he's home, and everything seems normal, but clearly it's not. He coughs up the thing into the sink. Will is going to be dealing with the fallout and trauma of his experience in the Upside Down for a very long time, and I highly doubt that's the last we see of the monsters. The confrontation with the Demogorgon comes to a head, as does Eleven's arc for the season. She seemingly sacrifices herself to destroy it. Of course, I know she'll be back, but that doesn't make the moment any less effective, primarily because of Mike's reaction to it. He was deeply affected and probably won't know for a while that she's still alive. Will was saved, the Demogorgon was defeated, Brenner seemingly got his comeuppance, and the characters grew and changed, but there are still many mysteries involving the lab, Eleven's fate, what happened to her mom, what else is in the Upside Down, and the lasting effects on Will, and many of the characters still have much more growing to do. Questions asked, questions answered, loops closed, loops opened. That is exactly how you end the first season of a TV show. In closing, I'm so glad I finally started watching Stranger Things, and just in time for the final episodes too. I have no idea why it took me so long, because this is right up my alley. I need to listen more, I know. I absolutely loved this season. It built intrigue from the jump and introduced us to a set of characters that we like, care about, and are invested in. The atmosphere is fantastic due to the precise direction by the Duffer Brothers and Sean Levy, and the eerie and wondrous score by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein. It has the perfect mix of some of my favorite genres like sci-fi, fantasy, horror, mystery, and coming of age. I love the very organic 80s vibe with the music, clothing, slang, and pop culture references that never feel shoehorned. It feels like a mix of so many different things that we've seen before, while also carving its own path. The characters are so well developed and grow so much while leaving plenty of room for more. The emotions land because we care so much about these characters. The story kept me on the edge of my seat from beginning to end, coming to a satisfying conclusion for the season while leaving the door open for what's to come. I loved pretty much everything about this and can't wait to keep going. A fantastic season of TV. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Assuming this does well, I will definitely keep going with the Stranger Things content. I plan to make many shorts out of this and maybe some character-specific videos when I'm done with the whole thing. Drop your thoughts on Stranger Things Season 1 in the comment section below. I probably won't even look at the comments until I'm all caught up, just in case someone decides to spoil future seasons. I don't want to take any chances. Who knows? By the time I upload this, I might be close to done anyway. I will ask if you're interested to please check out my Patreon and see if anything appeals to you. Even the smallest amount of help would go a very long way, and I am open to suggestions regarding the tiers and benefits. Totally understand if you can't do that though, but please like the video if you enjoyed it. Likes are so important for channel growth, getting more eyes on my videos, and increasing the chances that I do more Stranger Things content. Honestly, I'm mainly watching for Sadie, so I can't wait to see her join the show next season. I also got Teen Titans Season 4 coming up soon. If you're interested in seeing what I have coming up, subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when I post a video. Stay tuned for some more fun content, and I will see you soon.